That's important. Welcome back to Buy Real Estate, Cash Flow, and Get Rich. Who here would like to be rich? Hands to the camera if you want riches. Yes. Excellent. Hands to the camera if you want cash flow. Cash flow. Excellent. Perfect. So I'm in the right room. The difference between getting rich and cash flow is that people who are rich spend a lot of money. That's really the definition of people who are rich, right? Our goal is to get you wealthy, right? We want you to have wealth, which cash flow allows you to have, because it means income coming in no matter what. You can't stop it. It's constantly flowing. And the easiest way to become wealthy fast is leverage, is to use other people's money, including the banks and money that you didn't actually technically earn. It was money that was built in your property, also known as equity. Who here knows what equity is? Hands to the camera if you do know, have a good understanding. Excellent. Now, don't be ashamed. Hands to the camera if you do not know what equity is and would like me to define it. Anybody? Yes, excellent. So I will define it very quickly. Equity is essentially the balance between what you owe on your property. Say it's a rental property, right? A little monopoly house. The balance of what you owe, which is, we'll call this credit card representation of debt, versus what this house is worth. So the difference in between it, which means you take what this house is worth, subtract it from the debt on the property, and that gives you your equity. So say you had a $300,000 house, like it's worth $300,000, but you paid $250 for it, and now you only owe $200 on it. You've got $100,000 of equity in that property. Does that make sense? $100,000 of cash value. Now, equity can be built a lot of different ways. There you go, Mike. Hands to the camera if that made sense. A simple explanation. Usually the straightest line is the best path. So equity is something that builds wealth. It's the magic sauce in between all of this. It's what everybody else wants to buy rental property for. Everybody thinks that they buy real estate for appreciation. Normally, I'm talking about cash flow. Normally, I'm talking about you don't buy a building unless it cash flows. Normally, I'm talking about how you can gain equity by buying it right. I like to buy properties with a 10%, 20% equity position. Who here likes the idea of buying property with a sweet equity position right off the rip? Excellent, excellent. And for real estate agents on the call, we like to help our clients do the same thing. We're building wealth for them. We're helping build millionaires. Yes, excellent. The mission to 100 millionaires is all about you getting wealthier. And whether you want to be one of the 100 millionaires or you like to help build 100 millionaires, either way, it makes you a millionaire, because the more people you help, the more your average income around you becomes higher and higher. The more your average net worth around you becomes higher and higher. You can't help but become wealthier. It'd be really hard to build 100 millionaires and not become a millionaire. We agree? Yes? That is a selfish enough reason for you to go do it. Or you can take my reason, which is I just really, really enjoy seeing people do well. I want to see people do better. When I became a millionaire, it was one of the coolest days of my life, recognizing it, doing my net worth sheet and saying, wow, like I finally made it. Becoming a decamillionaire was just as exciting because it's an ego thing. I raise my income every single year. I raise my net worth every single year. Who here would like to double their income every single year? Excellent. And would like to double your net worth every single year? Excellent. How about keeping your tax basis exactly the same? Who would like to pay almost no more extra tax as they do it? Real estate is the vehicle to do that. And it's untapping our equity that allows us to do this. So equity, again, is the difference between what you owe on the property and what the asset is worth. That difference between this little space is your equity. Now, lenders will allow you to take some of that out without paying taxes. Now, you don't go and buy a property that's like the example I just gave and you get $100,000 in equity and you don't go pull all $100,000 out. What you can do though, is every 2 or 3 years, you can pull some of that out. Now you do want to continue paying these things down, but there's a sweet spot in real estate investing called the 40% equity line. At the 40% equity line, you've got too much equity. Who here owns a property that has more than 40% equity in it? More than 40% equity. Excellent. I do too. And so what I do is I refinance those. I'm in 50, 60, 70% equity in some of my buildings right now. And so what I've done is set up a refinance to pull out equity from some of the high equity buildings. Ironically, I'm also in hard money in some of them too. So reducing interest on some of the other ones. But essentially what this one recalibration does is it flattens out all of my interest rates, gets them down to 5.1, which in the commercial real estate that I own, that's actually a very good rate right now. Of course, I do know some commercial investors who have 4.5 because they refinanced right before COVID. Everybody understands that COVID is messing up the commercial side of things. We're very clear and very aware of that. Excellent. Residential, not so affected. Residential has not been hit as hard. In fact, Mike Shine, I'll let you talk to that, testify to that. Mike is our holistic attorney. He does all of our real estate closings. So he does 40 to 50 closings a month. So Mike, what would you say the residential market has been affected?
Oh my God, it's just booming. I mean, the rates dropped so low that everybody's refinancing or buying. I saw a closing the other day, 2.25 for a veteran on Veterans Day, which is very nice. 2.25 on a 30-year fixed mortgage. That was awesome. And I couldn't have been happier for the client. That was awesome. So yeah.
Wow.
So it hasn't affected like people thought. People come into my closings and ask, "Oh, how's this affected your business?" And we're slammed. We're not. It hasn't stopped the residential stuff. But you're absolutely right about the commercial stuff. Rates went up. The amount that you have to hold in reserves has gone up. Yeah, so big difference.
Excellent. So knowing that the commercial sector is getting hit hard right now, normally I tell people invest in multifamilies. That's where most of my money is. I'd say almost all my money is completely invested in multifamilies. That sector has always been good for me. Even now in an economic crash, I believe that sector is still very valuable, but I do see our equity getting hit faster and harder than single family homes at the moment. I do think that once the crash and the foreclosures start coming through, then we're going to see single family homes get absolutely obliterated and their equity is going to disappear. Whereas the multifamilies, what we've been hit right now, I think is about what we're going to stay hit. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. Valuable so far? Yes. So we're working our way into equity. As multifamily investors, equity allows us to buy larger multifamilies. In fact, without the equity, it's reasonable that it doesn't matter how much cash flow you have, a bank will not lend to you. But with the equity, the bank says you can actually use some of this as down payments. And in fact, deals like the refinance we're doing right now, it's a $2.4 million refinance. Deals like this, they said, you've got equity here, you've got great assets here at cash flow. What we're going to do is use some of that equity, give you a cash out refinance on some of this, use some of it as a down payment. So we actually are required right now on this commercial loan, 30% down. Who knows if 30% down kind of sucks as far as real estate investing goes, right? I agree with you. You're right. Unless you're in a 50% equity position, which is what me and my business partner currently are. How is the sound coming through? Is it better now? Better now that I put the microphone directly in front of my face? Yeah. Thanks for calling me out on that, guys. So the equity position is significantly important in situations where your portfolio gets larger. You never want to keep it to the point where it's almost paid down. Like properties getting paid down means you're missing out on opportunities. It means you're missing out on the ability to buy more capital. We talked about being in inflation last week. This is definitely an inflationary market. With Biden being president, I believe we're going to see even more inflation. Not Biden, but Democrats like to give money away. We all agree Democrats like to hand out free money. Excellent. Free money creates inflation. Free money means that the dollar goes down in value because they're not just handing them, they're not like selling federal assets and handing it to people. What they're doing is they're just printing more money, which devalues the currency you already have. It's the hidden tax that the government likes to put on us. So how does this tie into equity? Well, if you can spend more of these dollars in debt, as your building goes up in value, because that's what happens in inflation, hard assets, real estate, gold. Now I'm going to talk about crypto, stocks. Those things go up in value as the dollar goes down in value. Well, that debt stays the same dollar amount wise. As far as percentage wise, the debt value actually is going down compared to the equity. Did I lose anybody on that one? Or did that make sense? Excellent. So it goes back to Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where he talks about equity. And he talks about going and buying property with debt is actually a good thing. Now, do not go and buy a car loan right now with a massive amount of debt. Buy a cheap car, get not cheap, but inexpensive car like a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord or the Honda Camry, like a Toyota Camry. Like those cars have long ability to last, but they also, the debt that you put on them, it's going to erode like quickly because you're going to have that car 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They last a long time. Whereas another car that doesn't hold its value the same, say a Mercedes. I had one of those once, and that Mercedes just got destroyed. Just as soon as I got over 50,000 miles, who's heard of the 50,000 mile limit on those cars? Yeah, as soon as you get over 50, the car goes down in value. It's not worth as much, not worth as much, not worth as much. Toyota Corolla doesn't have that problem. It just goes down in value like $1,000 a year. Whereas a Mercedes will drop like $10,000 in the last couple of years over the 50,000 miles until they're worth the same as a Toyota Corolla. That makes sense? Some debt is not created equal. Real estate debt, on the other side, allows equity to exist without, so you can look at it this way, without a significant amount of debt, you will not have a significant amount of equity. So the more debt you can create on assets like houses, like real estate, like this stuff here, the more units you can purchase, the more equity you have access to. Leverage to create equity. Do not leverage to create financial debt. So like, I'll go Dave Ramsey on you for a second. He's always talking about paying down your debt, paying down your debt. College debt is the worst. There is some educational debt that I think does really well, like stuff that you can see return on investment like this year. That's okay to make that kind of investment. But with real estate, you're going to have that investment over 5 years, 10 years. Years from now, you'll still be refinancing those buildings, even though you're paying them down. The debt continue. If we stay in an inflationary market, which it looks like 2-5 years, we don't know when it could turn, but it looks like it may stay this way at the more quantity of V's and QE they're putting into the system. Your equity plays, and if you're a real estate agent, your client's equity plays are going to be phenomenal as long as they cash flow. And there I go, back to my favorite topic, cash flow. As long as the real estate cash flows, you can take out a ton of debt and build up equity. And who here has seen the example of the difference between purchasing one house and 4 houses? There's memes out there. There's people talking about it. Who's never heard the math on that one between buying 1 house and 4 houses with the same amount of 100,000? Excellent. All right. So I'll go over it really quickly. So there's 2 people. We'll say this represents $100,000 and this represents $100,000. They have the same down payment. One goes and buys a $100,000 house. We'll say there's one of those. They buy a $100,000 house. They now have this. They own it in cash. I own it in cash. There's no issues there. This $100,000 house is paid off. They're just paying taxes on it. The other person, they go and they take this $100,000 and they buy 4 houses for $100,000. Right. So they got these 4 houses. They bought them for $100,000 each, and they put $25,000 down on each one. $25,000. So the same down payment, but they spread it across 4 houses. Now we'll say the mortgage on a $75,000 house, mortgage, taxes, insurance, somewhere around $800,000. We all agree? $800,000 sounds about right. Excellent. Let's assume the rent that they're getting there is somewhere around $1,000. So it's covering rent and it's cash flowing. We'll say that the cash flow is just enough to get by, right? Like we'll say it's $100, $100 in cash flow. Does that sound good? For a $100,000 investment, you get $100 a month in cash flow. So they're both starting, and guess what? The other guy rents his out too. So they both rent theirs out. So house number 1, he's got $100 a month coming in. House not like the collector number 2, as I stack all these up so you can see them all. And just stacking them looks better. He's got $400 a month coming in, right? But all his friends are looking at him saying, dude, you've got $300,000 of debt. What are you doing? You're insane. Whereas all this guy's friends are like, yeah, good, smart. That was really clever. You've got that paid off, right? Who knows friends who would stand on that side of the battle. So yeah, you should have all your stuff paid off. All that debt, that's dangerous. Excellent. Well, a year goes by. Now they have the same equity, 100,000 in one house, 100,000 in 4 houses. It's the same equity. As a year goes by and the market appreciates, say we'll go 2 years and the market appreciates 10%, right? That's understandable. 10% in one property is going to give you an extra $10,000 of equity. Yes, equity, because you don't owe anything for it. We agree. 100. This guy who has one house has 10,000. The guy who has 4 houses now has $40,000 additional equity because the market has changed. The market just went up, just like it normally does, like it has in an inflationary market. The market went up, and so he gained 40,000 in equity because of his exposure. Does this make sense? Is it fair? I don't know. Fuck if I know. I know it's just real. This is how equity works. And so for real estate investors, as you get into this, you've got to look at leveraging yourself, because eventually leverage equals equity. This only works in an inflationary market. In a deflationary market, if you do something like this, you can lose equity. If it went down 10%, the person who owned that single family house is now worth 90, but he still has 15,000 in equity. The person who had the 4 houses, and this is the part where all your friends are going to talk about, it's very rare, but it does happen. As the 4 houses, their equity position has dropped from 100,000 to 60,000. So the other person lost 10,000. Now they're at 90,000 equity position. This person, as the 4 houses, has dropped from 100,000 to a 60,000 position. They're in a bad boat now, right? Bad boat. But they're still cash flowing $400 a month while their partner's cash flowing $100 a month. 4 years goes by. So we'll stick with the down economy, right? 4 years goes by, and they've both lost significantly. And the market's starting to turn, but I'd say equity position hasn't gotten any better. It got really bad. In fact, the market went down 20% instead of 10%, which, by the way, is unheard of. The market usually only goes down for about 2 years. It doesn't go down for very long, but say it did go down for 4 years. Equity position becomes really terrible on the person. And I'm not talking about amortization. I'm not talking about paying down your debt, because they are paying down their debt. And in fact, what would be interesting is the tenants on the 4 buildings, they're paying down their debt faster than the single family building. We understand that amortization is a real part of this equation as well, but I'm not going to talk about it because it makes my math harder. So going back to these 4, now they've gone down. The 100,000 has gone down $80,000 on the 4 buildings. And so now this gentleman's only got 20,000 equity left. And on the single one building, it's gone down $20,000. And so he's still got 80 grand equity. This is, by the way, the absolute worst case scenario that could ever happen to a real estate investor. We agree? This is like the worst situation. It would be a deflationary market where your dollar becomes worth nothing. At the same time, both investors see opportunity all over the place. Their properties have gone down to being worth 80,000 each. One can make a move because he's cash flowing. The other one can't, because he hasn't been able to save anything in addition. But the gentleman who for the last 4 years was cash flowing $400 a month saved it. He saved that $400 a month and now has a $20,000 down payment after 4 years. Whereas the other gentleman has a $5,000 down payment after the same 4 years. We're seeing how this becomes unfair. Even in a down market, the person with more property wins. Excellent. Now, 2 more years go by, the market starts recovering. The person with the 4 houses was actually able to buy another house because they used their money that they'd saved up and they bought another property. The person who was scared and only bought 1 house still hasn't bought anything because, he buys in cash. He doesn't buy with leverage. So he's saved an extra $5,000 from the 4 years of savings. But the gentleman who uses leverage has bought an extra property at $80,000. So now if the market moves 10% in the other direction, he gains a $50,000 increase. Does that make sense? Excellent. So now he's cash flowing $5,000 a month or $6,000 a year, $500 a month or $6,000 a year. And he now has the opportunity to purchase more property. He's done that. He's done that in year 6 and in year 8 and in year 10. And it's gone up the last three sections, 6 years. It's gone up. And every 2 years, he's bought a property using the down payments from the other houses
They've created this for him. And so now he's up. So at year 8, he breaks even again. He breaks even beyond. So instead of being at 100,000 equity, he's at 120,000 equity because the other house is back up its value that he bought, the extra house he bought. The other gentleman has just made it back to 100. This is making sense so far. We're holding on to the story of how equity is. It's the power of the mind. So you can remember anything that has a story to it that you can believe. And so the 5 houses are gone up to 120,000. But in that next 2 years, the market goes in the direction we talked about earlier, where it goes up 10%. And so those 5 buildings have gone up 10%. That's $50,000 increase on his side. Whereas the other owner of the single family, just one single family still waiting to build his down payments, has gone up $10,000. So he's now worth an extra $10,000, 110. The other gentleman is 150. 2 more years go by with no purchases, but he could. We understand that after 4 years, he could buy another building. Well, fuck it. Let's say he does. 4 more years, he buys another building, and say it's no longer at the discount of 80,000 because he did miss that opportunity. He didn't save any money prior to it. Just he got to buy one extra house. He buys another one. That's 6 houses. That means he's going up $60,000 in that last 2-year section, where he goes up to being worth 100 plus the 110 he just gained. This making sense? So he's worth $210,000. And I know that story was kind of a long way to express equity and how it works. But if you buy more buildings in the same amount of time as somebody who buys buildings all in cash, leveraging your equity instead of just keeping your equity in your property, you can build more and retire faster. I don't have my book with me right here, but I wrote the book Broke to a Quarter Million that explained this process. And in that book, I talk about how I bought 1 house per year, all multifamilies, except for 1 single family, which I wish I didn't buy. But I bought 1 house per year, all multifamilies mostly. And yep, Mike Shine has it right there. So Mike Shine's got the book Broke to a Quarter Million up on the screen. And it is signed by me, yes, because Mike is one of my best friends. So I made sure I signed that for him. So Broke to a Quarter Million tells my story about how I went from literally broke, having negative $25,000 to being worth my first $250,000. And it took me about 2 years. I did that back in 2015. And by 2017, I had over $250,000 in net worth. In fact, I had $500,000 in net worth in 2017 when I wrote the book, and I finished it. And I got a business partner, and the next year my net worth was $1 million. And the year after that, which we're currently in that last year, is 2.4 million, which is a pretty cool net worth. Hands to the camera if it's cool to have a net worth that is multiple millions. I agree. And the reason I share it is I really don't care what people think about what I've built. It's only for people who want to build something like that. It's important for you to know that it's possible and that it can be done in a quick time frame. Now, it's not an overnight success. It doesn't happen just overnight. This story I told you took about 8 years, 8 to 10 years, because there was a 4-year downturn. We agree that we've not seen a 4-year downturn in real estate in a long time, but we do know that it could happen. I also want to be very clear that we buy property now, currently at the boom, at the height. In fact, we've bought 50 units in the last 12 months, 24 condos, 4 multifamilies, 4 multifamilies, a boarding house, and a single family flip. So we, in the last 12 months, have purchased more property than most people own in a lifetime and their whole family. Fair to say? Yes. At the height of the market, we all agree it's the height of the market, but we're still able to purchase. Our equity position in that, just on those properties alone, is $2 million, right? That's a $5 million portfolio I own with my business partner. And there's $2 million in equity just sitting in that. That's what allows us to do this refinance. And we're at my favorite number, like as a real estate investor, I like having a 40% equity position because it gives room. If the market drops, I still got cash. And it leverages that other 60% and allows you to utilize the bank's money. I want to open this up to questions because Darina tonight has, I see, Andrew, give me a sec. Darina tonight is teaching multifamily at the Multifamily Network. She's talking about the market, current market, where they are right now across the country. This event is put out by the Boston Multifamily Real Estate Investors. Actually, Darina, you want to talk about it just really quickly before we dive into questions?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's our monthly meetup, Multifamily Investor Network of Massachusetts. Uh, Funny enough, it still has the name of Massachusetts, but we now have attendees from all over the country. And we're literally just talking about what experts are researching and saying on different aspects of our real estate market, what's going on with mortgage delinquencies, unemployment rates, where migration is going, and are we really going to be heading to a deflation market, and when is it going to happen? So just a little overview with uh, good food for thought for everybody. And it's happening tonight at 8 o'clock. So it's always a networking opportunity, and 8 o'clock Eastern time. So in about an hour and a half. Yeah, so join us. Again, it's all about multifamily. It's not just single families. Majority of people that are joining this group are doing large deals, small multifamilies, yes, but also syndication deals. So it's a cool group. We only do it once a month, so don't miss the opportunity.
Dorina, what is the easiest way for somebody to get access to this event tonight if somebody wants to jump on tonight?
The easiest way, I'll just drop the chat, the box. The box in the chat. I'll drop this in the chat box. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's give Dorina a round of applause. Phenomenal information. I do believe that this is something everybody's going to want to be a part of. Seeing as I live with Dorina, I've seen her stress over the last few days, making sure that every detail is accurate, and she wants to make sure that everybody gets all the information. And I numerous times have said, babe, you could half-ass this and it's still more information than these people have at the moment. So I wouldn't stress yourself over it, but it's going to be super valuable, super detailed, just a ton of information. And I have watched her watch YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video of some of the richest guys on the planet, economists. And I'm kind of getting smarter just vicariously, just from being in the room. So definitely want to be there, especially if you're a real estate investor in this market. If you're a real estate agent, a wholesaler, any aspect of real estate, you need to know what the market's doing. I'm very positive about what it's doing. It's good for us as real estate investors if you know how to play it. It does not work with the old rules though. So you do have to adjust and pivot to what is happening and what is occurring. But as real estate investors, as entrepreneurs, I see opportunity everywhere. We agree. We're strong people. We're intelligent people. We can capitalize on any market. Absolutely. So I will open it to questions. Mike Shine, you're right.
I would like you to tell everybody who's listening how much you paid per condo for your 24 condo deal, because you're not really telling the whole story unless they know what you got those for. So
I love that. So we bought those condos for $35,000 each. We currently are selling them for $106,000, $118,000. So we bought those condos in October of last year at the whole package, 24 units for $840,000. And I think closing costs cost us another $28,000, but it was totally worth it. Everybody understands that's a sweet deal. That's what you call $1 million deal. That's a ball. Was it knock out of the park? So
home run.
It's a home run.
Grand slam.
Grand slam. That's how you make $1 million in one deal. You just do $1 million deal, right? Buy a $2.4 million portfolio for under $1 million, and there you go. You've made $1 million in 1 year. Does that make sense? Simple math, right? Just anybody can do that. Very easy. It is possible. I do think that anybody can do it. It does, you should get some experience before you take those down. But go ahead, Mike.
I just want to say that proves that even top of the market, if you network enough, that you can find deals out there. They are out there, and if you're patient, you can find deals even in the top of the market. I put in the chat what I said today on our podcast. Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. So everybody's 100%. Wondering, when do I jump in? It's like timing the market. You can't
time the market. Unfortunately, you can't time the market, but you can increase your marketing. You can increase your network. You can increase the people you're talking to. You can increase the marketing that you're doing, and you can increase how many people know about you. The more people know about you, what you're buying, you can decrease your size of your niche. Focus on your niche, and more people will call you. If you just say, hey, I buy property, well, fuck, good luck, right? But you could do what I've always done, which is I buy 3 family buildings in Fall River, 3 to 6 family buildings in Fall River. And I've always said I'm looking for a 20-unit building right now, or a 20-unit complex. And that's what brought me the 20 condos, the 24 condos. I was very clear about what I look for. And I was very clear about the area that I buy in. I don't buy all over the country. I buy in one specific city. And I was very clear about that. And over the years, I've gained a reputation in the Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut area as the guy who buys in Fall River. Does that make sense? And so my market was very, very, very tight. And so I'm able to know every deal that's happening. There's deals happening in your city right now that you don't know about, but you could find out about them if you went on MLS and looked up closings in the last 30 days. Does that make sense? Somebody got a good deal this month. Somebody always gets a good deal this month. If you can push your marketing harder and tighter into a smaller niche, you could be that person getting that deal. All you need is one of those a year. You don't need to have all the good deals. There's 12 happening anyway, minimum 12 that are happening every single year in your city. Trust me, there's plenty to go around. Andrew, I saw you had a question.
Yeah, I actually got 2 questions, but I'll try to make them as quick and easy as possible. First one, when you're talking about using the equity in the property, you're only talking using like cash out refis. You're not talking like HELOCs or any other kind of other program out there, correct?
HELOCs are another great product. And so basically any way that allows you to get your cash back out of the property is something I will condone using, as long as the interest rate is lower than cash flows, as long as you can still cash flow by doing this.
Okay. And the other question I had was, is there any instance where owning something free and clear would make sense?
When you're about to die, I would say when you're in retirement and close to death, maybe like you'll never buy anything ever again. Maybe you could let those debt lines run down to nothing. I guess that could work. Maybe when you turn 70 years old, you say, hey, next 15 years, I'm paying everything off, right? This way by 85, your kids have free and clear properties, keep it in a family trust. So there's no taxes paid when they transition. And I could see that being a reason, but you should also teach your kids how to handle debt so that they would understand how to leverage those properties and keep those things going.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Of course. Great question. Give Andrew Casella a round of applause. It's a great question. What other questions do we have before we jump off? And that call tonight is at 7 o'clock, correct, Dorina? Was it 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock Eastern. So you do have an hour to rest.
8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, you got an hour to go grab a notebook, grab your pen, go grab a bottle of wine because you don't want any excuses to leave. Make sure that you're right there paying attention. And for some of you, you may need that bottle of wine. Who knows? Depends on your position in the marketplace. Look, we're okay with Trump getting out of presidency. We're okay with Biden in presidency. We're real estate investors. We don't care who's in office. We care about what the rules are. We follow the rules to earn income. And I know a lot of real estate investors wanted Trump in. I personally did because I've read all his books. He's like my hero, but I'm already proud of him for going and becoming president. And I think that by listening to Biden, he's got the right ideas. I listened to his speech the other day. I think he's got the right ideas. He wants the same things for our country. He wants unity. He wants all of us to do well. And I think that he's going to drop a lot of Democratic policies that are going to create a ton of inflation, which helps real estate investors more than it helps anybody else. Does that make sense? Like he will make us rich. Like as people who care about our country, we're always like, look, the Democrats are kind of messing things up and those policies aren't the best, but those are the policies we capitalize on the most, is the fact that inflation is exploding in every Democratic term. So let's capitalize on it and let's be happy and let's bless our president, bless their team and everybody that is out there. It only makes it easier for us when all the other people are like, oh man, this president's ridiculous. Like we're like not even thinking about it because we're making money. Does that make sense? Like we're focused on cash flow, abundance, buying more property, doing more deals, getting known in our marketplace and building more equity and capitalizing on the equity, right? The people who you care about their lives is your banker, right? Make sure you know what your banker's doing. Make sure you know what your attorney's doing. Make sure you know what your tax man's doing, right? Like those people are very, very important. What they're doing in their lives. Like you should know what they ate for breakfast, right? Because that deep relationship means you're getting really good terms. That makes sense. But who cares what the president's doing? It will not have an effect on you that you won't know about because your tax man, your attorney, or your banker is going to let you know. Does that make sense? Get it from the source. Don't speculate on what's happening in the market. Get it from the source. That's what Doreena's been doing. She's been going to the sources, and that's what I've always done in my career. I go right to the people. I don't get poor people's opinion on the politics. I don't get poor people's opinion on real estate investing. Does that make sense? We agree? All right. Other questions? Questions, comments. If you have anything that I don't answer in this, shoot me a message on Facebook, and I'll be glad to respond via text. For anybody who doesn't know me, I do not take phone calls. Phone calls are a thing of the past for me. I am retired. I do the podcast every single day. I jump on with somebody across the country to learn more about the market, what's going on, what they're doing, what their tactics are. So learn more about Alchemist Nation podcast at my website, walteramarello.com. If the content I'm putting out is not what you're looking for, if you want more knowledge on something, just shoot me a text, shoot me a message, find me on Facebook, send me an email. Let me know what you think would be a valuable conversation to have, or somebody who'd be valuable to interview, and I will reach out and I will do that. The idea at this point is I want to help as many people become wealthy as I possibly can. And the reason I don't do one-on-one phone calls is because that doesn't help a lot of people. It only helps one. The people I do a single one-on-one strategy session for are the people who join our mentorship program. Hands to the camera if you've been through the mentorship program. Excellent. My graduates, you guys are amazing. If you're still in the mentorship program, hands to the camera. Excellent. You're awesome as well. Give these guys a round of applause. They've already gone through it. In that strategy session, we talk about what your goals are, where you're looking to go, and I put a 3 to 5 year plan together for you. And that is the most valuable time that I put together. I earn about $1,000 an hour when I'm doing something, including something like this. So for me to be on a phone call with somebody it would probably decrease my income unless I'm talking to somebody who is also worth that $1,000 an hour. Does that make sense? But what I do is a strategy session that lasts 20 to 30 minutes. And I do that because you've already paid me that $1,000, right? So the mentorship is $1,000. I've made that money, and I make sure that I reinvest that in you when we do that call. So when I say, I don't take calls, I want you to understand I don't do it out of disrespect. I care about you. I care about your results. I care about your success. I always, always, always will respond to your text messages. Hands to the camera if you've ever texted me and I responded back. Excellent. Excellent. And Mike is just texting and Julie's just texting because I respond back to them too. So if you've messaged me, I will respond. I don't care if you're in my program, out of my program, ask me about the program, ask me about the market. It doesn't matter. Text me, I will respond. I am sadistic like that. I want to see everybody do well, and I can just respond at my own time. I can jump in and for 30 minutes, I grind and I respond to everybody really quickly. If I have ever missed you, just message me again. I probably didn't have service, whatever reason that is. So the mentorship program is walteramarello.com/mentor. If it's something you're interested in, we do have 8 other coaches that are involved in this. They're all volunteering their time. They want to see you do well. We do get paid for this because if we're not paid, you won't stay in the programs. And is it okay that I'm letting you know about this? Just letting you know a little bit about how my mentorship works. Excellent. You don't have to join it. It's literally just for people who want more. That's it. It's just for people who want to get together with other people who are like-minded, buy more property this year, learn how we bought, right? 24 condos at $35,000 each in a market where they're worth over 100, how we did it with no money down, how we did it by raising capital. All of our students at least have a basic understanding of how to raise capital at this point. Yes. And some of you have actually watched the Get the Money training, been at the Get the Money training. And so you know exactly how to do it. Even if you never put it into practice, it's still good to have in the back of your head. If you don't know how to find deals, we've got the Get the Deal training. We've got Get the Attention. We've got working with investors for real estate agents. These are pieces that are all available once you're in the community. So for you, if you know this is something right for you, please reach out to Dorena. She does still do those calls. She hasn't quite made it up to $1,000 an hour. So for her, signing somebody up is worth about $200 for her. I make sure that I pay her if somebody does sign up. And for anybody in the mentorship program, you have access to our affiliate program as well. I know Melissa Darling, we've written a check to you. And looking forward to writing a check to everybody in this program. Anybody who has a friend or family member that they think this would be beneficial for, that they think wants to earn more money, that they think wants to buy some real estate, or if you're a real estate agent and your clients aren't fucking moving, send them to me. I will make sure that they close on something within the next 2 months. That is my job. If I'm not telling you to buy real estate, I haven't done what I'm supposed to do. Does that make sense? If I can't get you moving into buying a piece of real estate in the next 3 to 6 months, there's something wrong with you or you're not listening to me. Does that make sense? Is that okay? And it's all right. I'm not going to give up on you just because you don't listen to me. I'm still here. You can ask me questions anytime. You just won't see me reach out after those 2 months. Is that okay? Like I will not go and chase somebody who's not active doing stuff. But if you ask me, I will always respond. As long as I have the ability to respond, I will make sure that I do that. That is my mission. I'm building 100 millionaires so we can build another 100 millionaires. I'm building $1 billion REIT, 10,000 units. And the only way I can do that is to surround myself with wealthy people. There are wealthy people out there already I could go after. Certainly. I could just raise capital the same way as everybody else. But I want to be in a group of moral, ethical people who have built businesses, who are building businesses, and I want to give you a way to retire. I will offer all of this, the REIT and everything to the public. I will offer it to other people, but I also want to have a part of building your wealth. And I, for some reason, love being on stage. I love training. I love teaching. I love being on stage. I love talking real estate. Anybody who's ever met me in person, I don't get tired. Like when it comes to real estate, I'll talk to you all day. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know about your deals. I want to know how they worked out, why they went well, why they didn't go well. So this is what I do for a living. So don't ever feel like you couldn't text me. Does that make sense? And if this is the first time you've ever heard about me, test it. Try it. Shoot me a text, see if I respond. That being said, I am heading off. I got to go prepare for the next call. I want to make sure Dorina gets a nice pep talk so she can go and kick ass and give you guys all the best content. Cheers to your success. Shoot me a message on Facebook, LinkedIn. I do pay attention. Instagram. When you have a choice, always work with the best. Go out there and build some equity, guys. Cheers.
Take care.
You too.